Friends, distinguished guests, welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast live. The launch event. Please put your hands together for your host, Glow's founder and CEO, the amazing, the brilliant, the unstoppable Emma Harris.
Welcome, friends. Wow, what a room full of love. How blessed am I to have you all here. Who would have thought that on May the 13th, 2022, when I should have died, it was actually a new beginning for me. And for those of you that don't know what Slow the Fuck Down is, about 4 days after that happened, I had a cardiac arrest. I was very lucky that I happened to be in a room with not one, not two, but 3 doctors and some fabulous friends who saved my life. And they gave me CPR and, you know, saved me. And here I am. I beat odds of 96-4 to survive. I was overwhelmed with this sense that what a fucking waste. What have I been doing? This mad hamster wheel that I've been on for years. And I nearly left a 5-year-old without a mum. And I thought I'd share this on LinkedIn. And you might remember this. Sherilyn Shackle phoned me and said, you just broke LinkedIn. I mean, 9 million views. And the point is, it wasn't just people saying, wish you better. There were people pouring their hearts out who'd read about my story. So Slow the Fuck Down was a LinkedIn post. Then it became a keynote. Then it became a workshop. It's now become the bedrock of what we do at Glow. We help businesses change, and we do that by giving them the thing that feels like an impossible luxury right now, which is time. We make them stop and think, what actually are we trying to do? How are we going to get there? What are the priorities? What are the behaviors? How are we going to take people with us, whether it's through the lens of brand or culture or leadership? It's become, Slow the Fuck Down has become everything. And now it's a podcast. So now to the main event. This evening, we are joined by 2 exceptional women who don't just lead, they completely redefine their industries, and they show us all how to turn vision into colossal impact. First up, please give a massive welcome, well, let me do her bio first, to Ellie Norman. She's got an incredible track record in brand revitalizations and turnarounds. She's a force of nature in sports and entertainment. She spent 5 years as the very first CMO and communications officer at Formula One, where she was an integral part of the exec team that grew the share price from $28 to $70. After 2 years growing the club's reputation at Man U, who they're going to get beaten on Saturday by Spurs, she's now the CMO at Formula E, so she doesn't care. She's responsible for growing the all-electric motorsport into a global brand, and she will. She embodies the strategic genius required to scale global brands and create customer impact in the world's most fast-moving, literally fast-moving environments. Please welcome to the stage, Ellie Norman. I'm so sweaty. Right, you're also there. And now, prepare to be inspired by a leader who turned corporate polish into unapologetic sparkle. She's my inspiration. It's my pleasure to introduce Nishma Robb. She is the Chief Sparkle Officer, the best. I mean, I thought mine was good, but Chief Sparkle Officer and founder of Glittersphere, the movement helping ambitious women go from unseen to unmissable. The co-founder of Hera, the UK's first female-led video podcast network. After a decade leading Google and YouTube UK, Nishma is now a reinvention strategist who helps leaders and creators turn personal brands into power. Her signature philosophy, the other AI, which is authentic influence, is a rallying cry for human brilliance in the age of automation. Known for her wit, warmth, and strategic genius, and brilliant posts on LinkedIn, Nishma Robb is proof that reinvention isn't a crisis, it's a superpower. Please give a huge sparkling welcome to Nishma Robb. Yes, thank you. So what? So, This is how, as you could see, this is the format of our podcast. So we have two guests on every podcast. The reason we did that is because we want it to be about the audience. We want to, rather than sort of going really sort of deep into one particular story or not, but you do both have absolutely brilliant stories. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you both the question that we do at the beginning of every podcast. I described before about everyone being mega stressed at the moment. Why do you think that is? How do you think we've got there? Ellie, would you like to go first?
Ooh, I think there is so many brilliant things about marketing, but we've confused in some respects just how much stuff we're able to do. So there's like a load of hustle going on, a lot of data, heaps of technology, and we've almost confused speed with making progress. And it is almost being able to kind of step back and be like, no, what are we doing and why are we doing it? But we're just caught up in this kind of constant treadmill where the algorithms want more, and it almost feels as if we're just now doing more and more and more stuff. We're thinking less, and creativity needs space. And I think that's why we're just seeing not brilliant stuff out there.
Yeah, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I also think there's a whole thing we say the boss's daughter's on TikTok and he sees something and he comes in and goes, let's do this. I mean, there's a lot of noise around
There
it.
is, but it is like, okay, it's like the critical thinking. What are we actually trying to do?
Yeah.
It's like asking the right question back.
And that's the thing you need to stop and do. That's what Slow the Fun Down is. Dish.
I feel like the industry's it's a bit insecure. It's having a crisis of what's good, what works, and therefore we're kind of scrabbling for everything. I think that pursuit of scale, and I think partly probably a little bit like the world. I'm going to say it's probably a little bit controversial, but you know the world is run by a few very big ego men, which is why we're quite fucked at the moment. And I think our industry has suffered a little bit in the same way. You know, that pursuit of scale is profit before people. It's scale and numbers before creativity and connection. And yes, it's about profit, of course it is, but the idea that you can chase profit in one particular way means we've lost the beauty and the art of this industry, which is just wonderful advertising, which is why we lose our shit when there's a good ad out there. We just sort of go nuts for it, don't we?
I know, today
It's like
John Lewis
it's
has dropped and everyone's losing
everyone's
their
like,
minds.
yes, advertising's still great.
Yeah.
You know, quite good. We're like one of the few industries where people literally pay to block what we do. Like, that's a fucking signal to go, stop making shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I think.
And so true.
It is, I did a thing, Lisa was there today, I was on stage at something this afternoon, and I had to say, you know, AI of course is exciting. We are at the MySpace stage of development, like the internet. AI is a bit like, I think, having a midlife crisis and it's got a new motorbike, and it's like, fuck, this is amazing. But this idea of just because you've got something doesn't mean you should use it and do it. Is that like, we just need to pause and go, why? To your point. Intentionality.
Absolutely, and take the fear out of it.
Yeah.
So when we work with businesses on change, one of the first slides I ever show is a quote from Heraclitus in 600 BC. He was a philosopher, and it's the only constant is change.
Yep.
You know, when they first did the printing press came out, everyone thought that was going to be the end of civilization because it was going to spread the word of the devil. Rock and roll music. You know, that was going to change the world. So we've had a lot of cycles. Is this any different? Probably not. It just feels it to us because we're in the eye of it. How are you doing? How are you both doing in this mad
Well, I thought I was
world
coming
we're
to a
doing?
group therapy session.
Yeah.
That might explain how I'm feeling
Yes.
right now.
What do we
Well,
talk about?
how are you doing?
Yeah,
How are you
we were
doing?
both like, is this because I'm here to be the example of how to not slow the fuck down? How am I doing? Look, I'm definitely in a moment of feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I've got, you know, I've told you about it. You know, I'm in that classic age where I've got aging parents. My dad's not very well at the moment, so you kind of battle that. I'm starting two new businesses, you know, because one wasn't enough. But at the same time, I couldn't be more centred and happier than I've ever been. And to your point earlier, which I'm so glad you said that, slowing down isn't about doing less. It's about doing the stuff that fills your heart.
Absolutely.
So although I'm a little bit like, you know, trying to do it all and can I do it? And I'm living constantly at the edge of fear at the moment, which is completely my own doing. You know, I have chosen to do things that I've never done before to push myself to do it, which creates, obviously, when you do fear, it's all that anxiety. But there's also like a positive hormone out of that as well. So although I am kind of like gasping for that sense of overwhelm, I probably couldn't be more at peace and more alignment than I've ever been before.
And you know what? Some of us do like being busy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't. So Danny will tell you that, you know, if air expands to fill the available space with me, if there's a gap, I will fill it. And I imagine you're the same.
Absolutely.
And what you've said, and we need to spend a bit more time together, because that fear, that is, if you think about the second pillar of Slow the Fat Down, which is manifest, don't stress, that's the mechanic to take that stress out of it. Because what's happening is your unconscious mind's going, this is going to go wrong, this is going to go wrong. And actually you can just switch that switch and go, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
All the way here today, rather than going, oh my God, this won't work and that one went off, you know, and I'll sweat, which I am doing. We just talked about how we'd feel on the way home, and we talked about our journey home. And the minute you start seeing those positive visualizations, heart rate drops, cortisol disappears. So there's a trigger there that you can reverse.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you did. We might talk about it, but we were at breakfast and you talked about your manifestation story, and I was like, shit. I started to do it. I realised I didn't read the last chapter. Error. If you're going to learn about manifestation, go all the way to the end of the book, rather than stop halfway through. But I was so inspired by what you did, and I think that self-belief and that vision is critical.
it's how I live my life. There are many people in this room who I know that are smiling because they've done it and it's changed their lives, right, Amy? Ellie, how are you doing?
So when we were chatting earlier, I was saying equally feeling quite overwhelmed, but excited. And for me, that sort of fear is the excitement, but with a breath. And just reframing it, because it's such an exciting time. I couldn't be happier in what I'm doing, but there is that sense of filling everything. But that comes from my own impatience of just wanting to get everything done. But for me, it is a case of now is the time to take that breath, because I'm about to get on a plane and do 17 races. And I know, having done that for 5 years at Formula One, it is actually quite tiring.
Yeah. Really? So what's your...
But I love it.
What's your strategy to cope with that?
I mean, there's like the really practical things. As soon as I get on the plane, onto local time,
Yeah.
exercise. You know I love my Peloton. I love a Barry's boot camp. So if I can find one in the destination, get off the plane, do some exercise. This one sounds really silly. Like as soon as I get back home, it's bare feet and go and walk around the garden. Just like re-ground yourself.
Love it.
And then get ready to go again.
Can we just stick with the Peloton for a sec? Can I ask you to share the story? So how many years ago was that?
So this was after I left Formula One, so 2022.
Right.
And
Gosh.
I was having my crises of like, what am I going to do with my life? What next? And your generosity and big heart reached out and was like, do you want to catch up? And I was like, over lunch, because I do love to eat. So we did that, and we did the manifestation. And we essentially did the manifestation. I was in a process with Netflix, which I was unsuccessful at. But the manifestation was that I was going to live by a canal in a converted warehouse, and I'll be working at Netflix. Now, it did transpire that actually where I went to next was just another red company, Manchester United, in Manchester, not Amsterdam, but I did have the converted warehouse apartment by the canal.
And she used to say to me, every time I'm on my Peloton looking out at the canal, I think about that day. Because who knew it was a red office?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was the same situation but different. And that's the thing I always say to people when you manifest, don't get so specific about some of the things. Just talk about the feeling.
Yeah.
Talk about all your senses rather than I'm working in this company. Only, you know, it's just what's actually happening in life. And it bloody worked. I love that story.
And I still do the Peloton looking out the window.
Good. And think of me, I hope.
Every morning.
Nishma, talk about someone who changed their life. So you went from like massive global brand at Google to becoming Chief Sparkle Officer of your own vision. Talk to us about that journey. What happened? What? Because it was more than just stuff at work. Tell us about that
it was
journey.
everything. Well, I think with most big changes in life, we kind of feel like it's going to be this rom-com moment, isn't it? You're going to have like, ta-da, and it all changes, which it isn't, of course. It's like a very slow burn to it. And I was feeling increasingly stuck and frustrated at work. You know, I think that often happens where you just I felt I'd lost my sparkle. I wasn't doing the stuff that fills me with joy in terms of the creativity, and you're in the grind, and you are questioning yourself, going, why am I doing this? What was the output? And I was definitely on that road to burnout. And I think that combined with menopause and at home feeling equally stuck. And so I decided, well, actually, before I decided, I had that feeling of going, I could just see a little bit, I wasn't manifesting, but this sense of I couldn't see ahead. I couldn't see myself doing that going forward. And it's quite dark that when you come down, I can't see what's next. So you're just on a treadmill. And that's that bit where you question yourself going, I literally wake up, I do this, I come back, I'm not happy. It's a self-constructed world. Why am I doing this? I started to ask those big questions. And it's hard, you know, it's the trappings of a good job that's well paid and everyone thinks it's incredible, but you yourself are feeling very sad and down inside. And I decided, after actually discovering a notebook that I'd written when I was younger, I was having this moment of going, what do I do? I need to really think about it. And I was clearing out some stuff and I found a notebook that I'd written when I was probably in my 20s. The silver pen might have suggested it was younger, but it was
Silver pen, love
I've been like 15, but actually probably about 22.
Yeah.
And I looked at this thing and it was really lovely because, you know, I didn't know anything about manifestation at 22. And I'd written on 2 pages. One side I'd written about what I'd like my personal life to be. On the other side I'd written about what I wanted my career to be. And I looked at this and I'd completely forgotten I'd never written it. And there was a sense of kind of going, wow, actually, I'd done a lot of that stuff.
Wow.
There was a bit in there saying, you know, I wish one day I could go to Milan in New York. And I had this moment where I stopped myself going, I bitch about the fact I've got to get on a plane. You know, and there was a time in my life, that was the dream to do it. So that was good. That's a bit of a wake-up call to go, shit. But there were other things on there that I hadn't done. And likewise on the personal side. So I had that moment to go, most people have a bucket list. I think I created a fuck it list at that moment. And went, like, these are all the things I need to say, fuck it, I need to go and do. So in a bit of a crazy moment, I left my job, which I'd been there for 10 years, and it took a while to exit out of that. And I left my marriage as well, which I'd been married for 20 years. Very amicable split, but never easy. I wouldn't recommend doing both at the same time. Definitely don't do the same. That wasn't planned that way. It ended up that way. And it was huge.
Hang on, let me write that down.
Yeah, definitely write it down. And there was this moment of, you know, I suppose at one point, complete liberation, but also immense fear. Because like most people, your job consumes you. You become that identity. As as being a mum, as as being a wife, as being all the things. And I was like, who the fuck am I? But I had this yearning for things I wanted to do, part of that bucket list. And I was like, I'm going to go and do it. I've got no idea how this is going to work out. I'm going to go and do it.
Love that. And look at you now. I have to say, similar story. I mean, I thought I wanted to be an actor. Ironically, married one. But I just grew up with this thing of being on stage. I just always had this. But I also knew I was going to do a business with him. Danny and I met when I was 16. Haven't been together since. But we did meet when I was 16. I was like, I'm going to be a businesswoman. But I did have this thing about being on stage. But now I realise I didn't want other people's words. I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to be a big show off. But you know, I wanted my words. But it's interesting, isn't it? You have a vision, and you do. That's the unconscious mind. It's like putting a postcode in Waze. Brilliant, brave story. Ellie, your high octane, literal high octane track of Formula One to now being on an electric racing series. Has there been a time when you didn't remember to slow down, and what happened there?
Definitely. So I would say, I mean, you know this story well, but coming to Formula One, I mean, when I was born, I grew up on a farm, and I have just loved anything with an engine, and I want to drive anything, motorbikes, ATVs, cars. Like, I love speed. So for me, it was like a real dream sort of job, and going to Formula One, it became my identity. And then when that kind of stops, and it stopped, and I felt absolutely exhausted, but it isn't until you kind of come out of something that I look back and thought, I just don't know who I am. And going through 2020 COVID and getting, you know, being part of the exec team where you're trying to get a sport up and running, make sure people have got jobs. I mean, the world was fucked up then, it still is now, but it was so bloody tough of like getting governments to open borders to kind of go in. You do that, then change of CEO. I came out and I was like, I have no idea who I am. I'm definitely not a great daughter, a great sister, not a great wife or a friend, because you're just all consumed. And that's that moment in time where you are like, what am I actually doing? And it takes way longer than you most probably realise to almost kind of recover from that and rebuild yourself into knowing, like, who am I? And when I'm at my best, what's that look like? But in a way more kind of rounded sense. And not that sort of Manchester United was sort of easy. Well, trust me, it isn't. There's crisis every day. But it was brilliant in some respects to step out, do far less travel, and now I just feel like I know who I am, trying to find that sort of balance of kind of what works for me, what works for sort of Will, my husband, of like how to now sort of run this. But I couldn't be happier. But it really was a good chunk of time after Formula One to sort of really recover.
Yeah. I mean, I bet, just to say that none of those things were true, that you weren't a bad wife and a bad daughter. I get that for you, you were just all consumed with it, but I bet that.
But it's those things of having put like work just at the very, very top. And now it's a case of, it's really important. You know, my niece was born with a heart condition, and she had sort of 48 hours, amazing surgeons at the sort of Evelina, and now she's absolutely feral 2-year-old. But the importance of even saying, like, no, she's turning on, I'm going to fly back from testing because I want to spend the first birthday with her and with the family, and actually just really sort of make the most of that. It's moments like that where you really realise, when I die, like, what's my eulogy going to say? It's not that I attended this meeting or I did this. And I find it hard because I want to be really good at what I do, but it is just trying to remind myself of those kind of moments and saying, like, the people you love aren't here forever, so just make the right decisions. And it is that choicefulness.
It's choice, exactly that. And that's such an overwhelming feeling for me when I realised how close I'd come to death. That how many bedtimes had I missed? How many bath times? I was the mum that never made the assemblies and, you know, didn't go on the school trips. And now I prioritise that stuff. Some days, I don't pick him up from school most days during the week. I pick up Monday and Friday. But if I go on a Wednesday, so Marley's still 8. If I go into that playground on a Wednesday and he's not expecting me, his face.
The joy.
He literally goes, like, it's amazing. So, and it's choice, exactly that. It's absolute choice. Nishma, as the Chief Sparkle Officer for Glittersphere, you are, I know a lot of women that is a sort of in your sphere, as it were, and you are making such a massive difference to them. Honestly, you are lighting people's lives up. And in doing that, you're pouring a lot of your energy into other people. So how do you do all that? What are the boundaries that you maintain to hold your own sparkle? Because I know what it's like, you do give a lot away.
I don't really know, if I'm honest. I don't think I've mastered that particularly well. I get energy from that as well. So it's two ways, isn't it? It's almost like if you can, you know, when I left Google, you know, part of that motivation is I turned 50 and I was like, what do I want to do for the next 10 years? And I knew the things that lit me up. I knew the things that gave me energy. And I was frustrated about the lack of progress we were making, particularly around women. So I, you know, chose to build a business that's dedicated to helping them. So I do get the energy. Right? That's absolutely, actually, you pour it in, but it's also what fills me up. I think the boundaries, which I'm very honest to say, I'm not very good at the boundaries, and I'm learning, and that's probably a mixture of, you know, insecurity, people pleasing, and just, you know, blind optimism to think I can do it all. It can be dangerous, and I'm very aware of it. And actually, my kids, as they're now older, are almost sometimes the ones that say to me, like, no, stop, which is good, because it's that constant reminder. I think now what I've realised I'm getting better at, and actually it was a bit last week, you know, I had some news from my dad, and you have this moment where you stop and you go, I chose to leave a corporate executive job to have more control of my life. So why did I feel like I didn't necessarily have that in that moment? It was actually the point to go, I can choose what that deadline is. I can choose the things I'm doing, and also stopping. I think that's the thing. It's like I don't paint a picture of nirvana in terms of like you leave a corporate job and you go and start your own business. It's all brilliant. I probably work harder now than I've ever done before. But what I've learned to do is going, actually, a little bit like that self-belief. If I don't do it now, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
And I think just trying to be a little bit kinder to myself to go, it's okay, you haven't got to do it all now. But it's like you're so conditioned to the way that you've worked, 30 years of working.
Yeah.
You set these kind of wild and crazy deadlines and behaviours, and you don't need to. But I think it takes such a long time. Any reinvention, it takes time. I wrote something recently about the 7 stages of whatever it might be from moving from an exec job to something else, because it's not easy. And I hear that from people all the time. And I think just having a bit more of that awareness has been helpful. My way of doing that is I've been sharing very publicly about the fuck-ups and problems and things I've had, and that's brave in itself, and I know it. And whenever I post that, I then feel quite sick, and I'm like, fuck what I've done, I'm never going to get another job, no one's ever going to employ me. But I do it because, and everything I'm doing, both with Glittersphere and Hera, the podcast network, is all about, my entire life, I've always looked for others in terms of similar stories. My belief has always been, there's millions of people that have come before me, somebody has felt like I do. So I seek those stories to just learn from others. And when you can't find them, which is why I'm trying to make them or get others to tell them, I think that's the bit that heals me. And that's where I learn when I'm making a choice, going, does that still work to that goal, or am I just doing it? And so much of it's ego.
Absolutely.
So much of it's ego.
Yeah.
And I'm completely comfortable to talk about that, to say, do you know what? Of course you have this ridiculously self-inflated ego. And you soon realise people talk to you for your job title, not because it's you. And there are many people who talk to you because it's you. And I was very grateful for the fact that I probably had that self-awareness before I left. But I remind myself of that all the time. I completely changed the way I now think about success. You know, I was on this ridiculous treadmill of belief if it needs to be so much money and so many things that I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Freedom for me is about, yes, financial freedom, I need enough money to go on nice holidays mainly, but freedom for time and freedom of choice, and knowing what I do matters, and knowing that every moment matters. So I have to pull myself back to make sure what I'm doing is not just ego and things, and doing the things that I think people want me to do versus the thing that I want to do. And I do. There are definitely things in the last year that I've picked up and done, and had to stop myself going, why am I doing that? Because it's not bringing me joy.
Yeah.
And also doing the stuff that's really fucking scared me. Is my fellow friend here that we stood up last week on the Comedy Store and did stand-up comedy, which is like one of the most terrifying things I've ever done. I've started a YouTube channel. Didn't think I'd ever do that. That's terrifying. My children also hate me for it because they're worried that I'm now going to create social suicide for them. But it's that bit of the combination of fear and trying. Like what I realise now is I stopped growing at Google, which is bizarre to say because it's one of the most fast-moving, innovative businesses in the world. But I had stopped growing, and that's a very important thing. And I knew that I had to come out of that and start growing. Now I'm learning that I don't have to know everything. I can take my time and self-belief that it will come and it will happen, and you have to tell yourself that every day, because there are moments where you're definitely kind of crying into your cornflakes, going, "What the fuck have I done?" But that's good.
Yeah, and this is the thing I tell the kids all the time. The quest, that quest that I was on. That was the thing when I woke up in ICU. It's like, what have I been doing? I don't give a shit what the turnover of the business is. I don't care. Why was I so obsessed with it? I can't even remember what I meant. But it's this quest that we're in our lives for more. For when we never get there, it's like, when I get that job, when I get that title, if I'm earning that, I'll be so happy. And inevitably you get a bigger mortgage, you buy a bigger house. You just need more and more and more. When I'm thin, whatever the fuck it is, when I get there, and I don't know if you've read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, but he talks about the fact that most of us are waiting to start our lives. Yeah. And that's such a fucking waste.
And it is that moment of reflection. I remember, I suppose, all of us did at that point in COVID, when we're sat at home and you're grinding out work and maybe slightly questioning what you're doing in moments that. I remember walking around, as I would each evening, and thinking, my kids are going to grow up and they're going to say to me, "Mummy," or maybe my grandchildren, because the kids were aware of it, grandchildren would say to me, "Grandma, what did you do in that great time of the COVID pandemic?" And I'd say to them, I wrote like fucking 40 slide decks in about 2 treatises. I was like, what am I doing?
Say to our clients all the time, you're not operating on babies.
No.
You're making shareholders rich. We're all selling shit. Yeah. We're not operating on babies. At what cost? Stop. Put yourself first. And I know that's not easy, but often we're doing it to ourselves. So there's a thing I talk a lot about, which is FUPO, which is, the looking glass self. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So I've got to send that email at 11 o'clock because if I don't, then blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't exist. So that fear that's driving us, that's the thing to turn off. And Ellie, how do you do that? How do you do that with a team of people where you've got numbers to hit? Everyone's on that number, got to hit the number every week, every day, every quarter, every rinse and repeat, back again. How do you drive a team when you've got that pressure without burning them out? How do you manage both those things?
It's definitely not easy. But if I think about it, not dissimilar actually to a race. So when you are in a car and you're taking part in a race, you have to have a strategy, and you cannot go flat out for every single lap because something's going to go bang and it's going to break. And it's exactly the same. So I always think it needs to start with me as a leader, which is like, be really clear about what we're doing and have that clarity, and just start from a place of calm. And sometimes my little heart is kind of racing away inside, but it's like, be calm, be really, really clear, and just start with like, how are you doing? How are we really doing? Because it's so easy to go straight into the long kind of like list of stuff, but finding those moments to spend time together, team days, of just reminding, like, we're here to entertain people. We're here to make people smile. That's like such privilege and joy. We're not doing like a frontline job. And it doesn't mean that we don't care, but it's just trying to bring in a little bit of levity and a light touch, and just find those moments to get together, have a drink, and just really sort of remind us why we're here. For me, in order to do that with a team, I love to cook. So it's like if I'm at home for a weekend, it's like new recipes, friends. I really love to put aside an afternoon and cook. And driving. Like just going out for a great drive, holidays with the biggest landscapes, where as a human being you feel so significantly insignificant, like safari. Patience, no connection, just space. That for me is like, make sure I get those recharges, and then hopefully I can try to be like a good leader.
You are a good leader, Ellie. I've known you for 15 years. I've never heard anything but fabulous stuff about your leadership, because and it's that stuff you just said, how are you? And when you say it, you mean it. There are leaders like, right, how are we doing? You absolutely mean it. And it's, in terms of that people before profit rather than the other way around, you're an absolute example of that. God, I'd follow you off a cliff.
Thanks.
That's pleasure.
Let's not do a cliff.
Let's not do a cliff. I follow you around a racetrack.
Let's do that.
Yeah. You're not good at heights. You're not
You
good
can
at
be my
heights.
passenger. We'll go out for a little hot lap.
Where are you going this weekend? And for what? Is it this weekend you're going to Germany to pick up an engine?
Gearbox, actually.
Who does that?
Well, it's a little restoration project.
They're
going to make a brilliant gearbox, though.
I bet. We're nearly out of time, sadly. So I've got my last question for you both. Look, we've got nearly 100 people in the room, and hopefully thousands and thousands, if we all share, thousands and thousands of people listening. What's the one thing, if people are listening to this going, I don't know how to stop, I don't know how to get off that treadmill, I don't know how to do what I'm always saying to my kids is, forget what you're earning and what, all of that ambition stuff, none of that matters. Being able to look yourself in the mirror every morning and look at yourself and say, I like you. That's the quest. If there are people listening that are like, I don't know how to get there, what's your number one big advice for them?
So I think the thing, particularly with actually both my businesses as well in terms of pursuit, is I feel like I've had this as well, and I know so many women do feel it, and men actually, is that we're trying to work to an ideal. It's like you've got to stop with the shoulds. You've got to stop with this idea that you've got to play to somebody else's tune or ideals or expectations, and genuinely write your own story. Put your own tracks down, determine that. That changes everything. That and the fuck it list is honestly a game changer, because that's the bit where it stops you in your tracks to go, am I living? Yeah. Or am I just living?
Yeah.
And I think that bit of break the ideals, break all the stereotypes, and every person should be able to create whatever path they want and be able to be proud of it and not feel that pressure of following, because all of that pressure we put on ourselves is somebody else's story, somebody else's ideal.
And it is pressure we put on ourselves, because
Totally.
that somebody else's ideal is we're actually making that up.
Yeah.
Because most other people are wandering around thinking about themselves.
So somebody
So-
somewhere must have written something.
Someone-
Somebody somewhere, and
Yes,
we're living
but
to this ridiculous
it's our
ideal
own-
that's
yeah,
somebody else's.
it's our own
What's
judgment.
our
Yeah.
story?
Take the pressure off, absolutely. Live each day. Ellie?
For me, like the super practical side is just blocking out time. And that sounds so simple because I do like to fill every single minute, but love a bit of colour coding. And I have catch-up time and future time. Because, you know, sometimes you put that time in, there's always a massive, massive, long sort of to-do list. But almost by being so purposeful about, no, this is the time to do the catch-up stuff, but here's the block of time for the future time. Because until you start to give yourself that space, you're never going to be in the future. And without that space, the creativity is not going to come, the what-ifs aren't going to come, and you're not going to be able to sort of really write your future path. So just trying to be really disciplined. So for me, Fridays, it's a day I work from home if we're not at a race. And it is like, no one touches that time.
Brilliant. Such a high performance habit. We encourage the clients we work with to have 20%, exactly that, 20% of your diary meeting free. We are paid to think. And if we're in back-to-back meetings, how the fuck are we supposed to think? You know, it's a great practice. Absolutely. Guys, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Everyone, please give it up for Nishma and Ellie. Thank you for listening to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. If you found this episode interesting and insightful, please help us spread the word by giving us a follow or sharing it with your friends. And if you feel inclined to give us a quick review, that would be awesome. Let's all do what we can to help the world slow the fuck down.